parts. I feel like it would be fun maybe for everybody if we start by doing almost like a chronological introduction for both of you individually, where you started, what your passions were earlier in life, right? And then the career path that you ended up taking. What were the moments that led you to think, I'm not sure I want to do this, I might want to do something completely different, especially in your case, Shannon. And then how did you decide to land where you landed now? What was that like for you just going through that transition process? So maybe if you could just kind of walk us through a little bit of a timeline. Christina, we'll start with you. A quick introduction of who you are and what you do and how you got to where you are.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you to the Chamber for having me at this awesome event with all you wonderful women leaders and gentlemen in the room. My name is Cristina Curreri, and I am the very proud co-owner of the Scituate Salt Cave. How I got here is a very interesting and winding road. I guess I'll start with the very first job that I had. First paying job was at the quarterdeck. Who remembers the quarterdeck in Scituate? Look again. Yeah, so literally steps from where I am today. Steps. So the quarterdeck, it was, for those of you that don't know, a little trinket shop in Scituate Harbor. It's now the Lucky Fin Coffee Shop, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. But I worked there summers and had just a great time meeting customers and people traveling in from all over the place, and worked with a very cool, eccentric, interesting, hippie type of a woman who is in her 90s now, still living on the South Shore, and she taught me everything I need to know about just kind of being kind to people. But flash forward, after college, worked in the radio business. Actually, I thought I went to school for communication and English. I wanted to be the next Jane Pauley. I thought I was going to be on TV and we didn't plan this. Never too late to be what you might have been is what I always say. But I wanted to be in that world. Always thought that I'd be working there. Worked in Los Angeles for a little while, pursued that dream, but right after college ended up landing in the radio industry and worked in radio sales. And if there's anything more difficult than selling air, I don't know. So back then, this is early 90s now, I'd be going, knocking on doors, making phone calls, trying to get people to buy radio spots on WJDA in Quincy, and had literally the best boss ever. We're going to talk about some mentors, but this fellow taught me everything I needed to know about sales and how to orchestrate a sale and how to create an environment where people felt comfortable with you and people wanted to buy from you. That led me to working at an amazing station in Boston, WBOS. Again, still trying to hold on to that dream of just getting into that industry, in front of the camera, on the radio, that kind of thing, but it didn't pan out. So I ended up getting married, moving to Connecticut, and didn't know what I was going to do. I was kind of left with trying to figure it all out. Worked with a headhunter that put me through a battery of tests, and she said, you'd be really good at membership sales, like working with people with long-term commitments and getting them to spend a lot of money to do so. So I worked for a beautiful country club outside of Hartford called the Hartford Club, and loved it. It was an international-based company, but I worked at their location in Hartford. So did that for a while, and that's where I kind of fell in love with the idea of this recurring business and seeing people on a regular basis and that type of sales. That led to a job back in Boston working for Sports Club LA, which is now the Equinox, so a very high-end fitness facility, and that then led into my journey of wellness and wanting to work in the wellness industry. Had a couple of kids, left the 3-hour round trip commute into Boston, and quite accidentally ended up with the job that I think was the most pivotal for me, most important to me, other than being a mom. Worked for a company called Coco Fitness, and I was there for almost 10 years, working with Lauren Delilio, who's in the room, and Julie Williams, who is not in the room right now. But the startup fitness franchise wore a ton of different hats. Being there gave me an exposure to entrepreneurship that was vast. We worked with people with different backgrounds, different parts of the country, and I went from managing their flagship location in Pembroke to being the director of franchise training and development, traveling all over the US and Canada, opening up these facilities. So I saw firsthand from the beginning to the end how these folks ended up where they did with these successful businesses. Made lifelong friends, made connections to people that I ended up using today to run my business. But sadly, that company did not make it where we wanted it to go. So dissolved my relationship with them. It was one of the saddest days of my life, but I had hope that something better was on the horizon. I took a job with the South Shore YMCA for a short period of time, keeping in that vein of health and wellness, and ended up there only for 3 years. I knew that it wasn't the right place for me, but it was the right place for me at that time. My kids were teenagers; they needed the why, I think, more than I did, and that served that purpose for sure. But I knew that there was bigger and better things on the horizon. So towards the end of 2019, I got a call from someone from Yoga Works, which is a Los Angeles-based yoga company. Married all of my passions together: the love of Los Angeles, the love of yoga, the love of fitness. Being back in Boston, I was the district manager for all of the yoga studios in New England, but they were all mostly in the Boston area. I started in December of 2019, so wasn't there very long. They did actually keep me on until October of 2020, which I was so grateful for. They ended up having me do remote work for the studios that they were trying to reopen across the country. I was so grateful for that. They put me through yoga teacher training, which I never would have been able to do at any other point in my life except for that October, where I could spend 5 days a week in a Zoom room with 30 other women from all over the world. We had people from Sweden and London, and we had someone from Dubai, all live doing the 6-hour training daily for 6 weeks. And that, again, super grateful for that. So I feel like my purpose there was to get to this ability of learning, how to be a yoga teacher, and hold on to that. And then I was out of work for a few months trying to figure out what to do, and I started to do a ton of walking and running, and not really feeling great about it. My knees were bothering me, but someone from Yoga Works said, all the rage out here are these salt caves. You got to try the salt caves for the inflammation. And
This is someone from Yoga Works, originally based on the West Coast.
Originally based on the West Coast, exactly. And they said, find a salt cave. I think it's going to help your knees. I think it's going to help with the inflammation. Like, I'm allergic to a lot of things. Can't take any anti-inflammatories. And she knew that. So I found one about 2 hours away and dragged my fiance down. I said, we're going to do this. It's going to be fun. You're going to love it. And that was March 13th of 2021. And now we're sitting here not that far later. But we were in that cave, and we both looked at each other after the experience and said, we need this in Scituate. We need to figure out how to make it happen.
When did you open your doors in Scituate?
October 1st, 2021.
It's so interesting too, because even from my own experience starting Clandestine Kitchen, that was really born out of, I'm from the West Coast, from Seattle, and then lived in San Francisco before I moved out here. And they're just so much farther ahead, specifically back in those days, 7 to 10 years ago. Moving out here, it was, you couldn't find a juice bar on the corner. The Whole Foods was just being, built as a shrine at Derby Street. Like, it was so excited. And so trying to find, even farmers markets, local farmers markets weren't even cropping up yet. You had to go to Boston. I would go to Boston to go to a farmers market. So we're so fortunate now that, we're starting to catch up a little bit faster. So it's interesting to me that similarly, your interest was piqued or you were told about something in the health and wellness space, designed for us taking care of ourselves, that inspired your business as well. So that's an interesting point. And we'll come back to talking a little bit more about the mentors and how you got to where you are today. But going through that journey, it's so interesting to see how you had experience in so many different areas, all of which business owners do every day. So all those little tidbits that you learned along the way, culminating to you having that background of knowledge to be able to have the confidence to go out and open up your own space. Yeah, amazing. Your experience in Pat's resume is awesome for where it led you to today. So Shannon, same question. What about you? Walk us through Shannon early days and now into current day with what you have going on with Burke Hot Sauce.
Yes, I feel like I have very similar overlap to you, Christina. So Shannon Burke, owner of Burke Hot Sauce. I too started my business out of the pandemic, 2021. We handcraft and ferment hot sauce. We do everything ourselves, start to finish. Prior to getting into the hot sauce business, which is probably not a common thing you hear every day.
I think you're the only one I know.
I worked for a tech company, been in tech for the last 10 years. Software as a service, if you're familiar with that industry, is basically using software to help yourself do what you gotta do. And I worked primarily in the onboarding of new customers, and then I moved over to channel sales and operations, managing client partnerships. But long before that, kind of my journey through kind of getting to that field and to where I am today, I had an interesting background. I grew up, Rhode Island, the oldest of three. My mom was a single parent, and all I wanted to do was get out of the house and kind of do my own thing. I managed to graduate high school early, so I did that in 3 years. That's a whole nother story, but and I went to Boston. I was like, I'm a city girl. I want to be in the city. I want to go explore. I want to do big things, and I loved it. But I was itching for something different. I wanted more of a community feel. Felt like I was a big person in a big city, but wanted more of that kind of intimate feel. So my journey brought me to San Francisco. It's actually where I graduated college. So California roots at some point, like the rest of us here. Yeah. Love the city. I just couldn't believe I found myself there. I immediately fell in love, and I was like, I am never going back.
And everything.
Right? And I was like, how did I get back here? And I'm like, but there's something about being home. Yeah. And well, this is kind of a funny story. It was 2004. I had I won't bore you with all the details, but I had something lined up. It fell through, so I moved back to San Francisco, and I couldn't find. It was like, if anyone remembers the economy at the time, we were going through a new election, and things were just kind of crazy. And the job market wasn't very stable, and this is when tech was really kind of coming to be the Google, and I was in Silicon Valley, and I'm like, how did I not end up at Google? A lot of my friends did. And it was 2004 October, so where we are now, but a long time ago. The Red Sox won the World Series, and it was the first time, and since, was it baseball fan, 1912 or something like that, the curse was broken. And I was there celebrating with a bunch of not like Yankee fans, and I was just like, I need Boston Red Sox fans, and I miss my home. And like a couple weeks later, I got on a plane because I didn't really have a job. I was just waiting tables and couldn't really find what my purpose was when I was out there. So that led me to come home, and then I too got a job working at radio sales. Yeah. It was like my first job out of college. I worked for ZLX, and but I was not there very long. When my first sale was with, I think it was BOS where you worked at a sister station. So anyway, it's fun overlap there. And yeah, as we often do. I was a communication major as well, so there was another funny tidbit. But I always joke with my friends, it's like, you think you know what you want to do at that age, everyone older than you tells you, no, you never, it never ends up being what you think it's gonna be, and I'm like, yeah, communication major is like the most broad thing. I thought it was gonna be a talk show host, and
No, that's my job.
yeah, I know. And this is the career path, right? Yeah, it's just like, all right, well, it's obviously there's some characteristic about wanting to pursue that degree and that path that kind of instills the qualities of owning your own business and entrepreneurship. And even working in tech, I wore so many hats. I worked with every single department across the business, and it was what I enjoyed most about it was helping them solve problems, and I liked that my hands were in the pot and in everyone's business. I wanted to help everyone except for my own problems. I was like, all right, what are we gonna do now? And so similarly, I just see a lot of that in owning my own business. Is okay, we got to figure out the marketing, we have to figure out the finance, and we need to figure out the support. We need to the process, and being very process driven as well, and problem solving, and where I was for the last 7.5 years with the tech company. I did a lot of that, and we went through some M&A activities, so I helped with a lot of that as well. And I always would go out for drinks with coworkers and a really good friend of mine, and we talk about business ideas that I had, and everyone jokes to just write it on a napkin, and then it happens, and so I write them down on my phone. And then the pandemic happened, and I was just like, all right, I got some time, so I started doing research, and so I'm just gonna make this happen because I just know I'm gonna do something. Not sure what it is. Got some ideas, and then I'll save some more for later. But it was kind of one thing led to the other, and that's how I got here today.
And so I find it also interesting too, because for entrepreneurs in general, sometimes it starts as the passion for the product. Other times it starts as the passion for business leadership, which may or may not have anything to do with the end game with the product. How would you say that falls into a category for you? Did you think about your passion for your product first, or your passion for owning a business, and then it came from there?
I would say it's like 60-40, and probably more to have my own business. And then hot sauce is something that I eat just about every day, so all day.
Hot sauce is delicious.
Yeah,
I eat it every day now too.
And then what transpired that though, because it wasn't on my original list, and my husband was growing an absurd amount of hot peppers, and we'll talk about him, and started making.
We may need to get a chair for him later.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, we got something here. And another joke, if you can't tell, I joke a lot. I joke that, without him, he would have hot sauce, he would have a product, and we would have a business. And I would have a business but no product to sell. So we make a good duo. Together we have a business.
And what are, just staying on, now that we're talking about food, which I like to talk about, what are some of your earliest food memories, maybe that were reminders for you about sparking up that passion going into the food business is no easy adventure. No. So there must be some passion in there somewhere.
Yeah, well, it's the hot sauce. And being in the tech business and working with a lot of food and beverage, I know it was very much a mill-dominated industry and a lot of kind of old mentality, not progressive like tech companies are today. So I was like, oh, I never want to do that. And here I am now in it, and I'm like, I can do this. But my food memory is, part of it is some of the roots to California and eating really good Mexican food, really good Thai food, and just putting all of the hot sauce and all the chili peppers into my food. And similarly, I had a short stint when I lived in Florida, and there was this one restaurant I would go to, and they had a little carrier of all the different hot sauces. And I loved that because it wasn't Tabasco, it wasn't Cholula, it was all these different makers of sauce that you wouldn't find anywhere else. So those two things really stood out to me. It's how I kind of initiated the journey.
And then Christina, so we were just talking earlier, all three of us also just happen to like to run, and so we were talking about running. And so that, you had mentioned earlier, was something that you had picked back up again, noticing some aches and pains, heard about this like new way to heal yourself, sparked your journey now into owning the Salt Cave. So you clearly started this from your own personal experience and from a passion as well. So maybe talk to us a little bit about that and how all of that came together and what you're seeing now from your clientele who are visiting Salt.
Yeah, definitely. So after that very first Salt Cave visit that I mentioned earlier, we went out to lunch with some friends. We had a napkin. We started writing stuff down. We're like, okay, what can we do? How can we do it? I wasn't thinking in my head, I'm going to be a business owner. I was thinking, how do I get to do this every single day? And that's where the drive for the business came out of. But we went home that night. We started writing the business plan. We had our business incorporated 2 weeks later and started kind of putting and formulating everything together. And one of the things that we looked at is, who else is going to want to do this besides us? Are we just in a vacuum here and nobody else knows about Salt Caves? And this is there's going to be a lot of challenges doing this because nobody knew what it was, or there just aren't very many of them around. So as we started to share the news with friends and family, we got a lot of, "You're doing what? What are you doing?" And where else are these Salt Caves? And
how many of you have been to Salt Caves? Oh, so good. Yeah.
It's great, awesome. And the rest of you.
Yeah. There's a card on the table.
Exactly. So we started telling people about it, and thank goodness, everyone was totally intrigued. They wanted to know more. And the daunting task of educating everyone became exciting to us, as opposed to something that we were afraid of. I don't think we came across a single person that said, "You're crazy," at least to our face. "You're crazy, what are you doing? You shouldn't be doing that." Everyone was very supportive and started to share the information with others, and they shared it with other folks. So by the time we opened our doors, we had people that knew about us, were interested in us, and were seeking out the therapy like I was. Some of which had been to a Salt Cave before, some of which had at least heard of it, but I'd say the majority of the folks had no idea what they were walking into. So today, when folks walk through our doors, they experience, and for those of you who've been here, you could give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, they experience a sense of calm as soon as they walk through the threshold. They feel very relaxed. They're generally pretty happy coming in, but sometimes they've got the weight of the world on their shoulders, but they leave feeling better, and that was what I wanted to accomplish. Folks coming in with whatever they came in with and leaving feeling just a little bit better for that. So, and people come in for a wide variety of reasons. Our very, very first customer that we ever had, and I remember the day Paul and I were in the cave together. Paul's my fiance and my co-partner in this, in life and in work. And we said, "Oh gosh, there's somebody on the schedule that we don't know. What do we do?" But she came in, and she's coming in for a skin issue, because the salt therapy does wonderful things for your skin, including helping to clear up things like psoriasis and eczema and acne. So she knew this. She had done her research. She came in with a friend, and she was hooked. And this particular customer has been in every single week since we opened, at least once, if not twice a week, since our very first day. Her skin condition cleared up months ago, but she still comes in for the mental health aspect of it. So we see folks like that. We see people that come in specifically for the respiratory issue, which is the primary benefit of halotherapy. They're coming in because they've got things like seasonal allergies or asthma. Maybe they have more serious conditions like COPD and emphysema. We see a lot of COVID long haulers that are trying to clear up their breathing issues. I'd say that's probably 50% of what we see. And then those that came for the for the inflammation or just to have a bachelorette party. We've got
Or
those
like
too.
Elvis Collins playing in the
Yes,
football game.
exactly, yeah, so we've had people that have reached out to us saying, can we use this space? All this is a friend of ours, and he came in and he's like, I just wanna shoot one music video. And then it was going, so I was like, can I shoot another one? And four music videos later, we ended up releasing them, they came out great, and we were so delighted to have done that. But I love that it's a place where people come together, I am always reminded of like the movie Love Actually and that scene where, they're all, coming together in the airport at the end, and Grant, I think, is the I don't know, one of the narrators is saying, how much they love seeing people come together at Heathrow Airport. That's what I get to see every single day while people are walking through our threshold, haven't seen each other in a long time because of the pandemic. People are, coming from the Cape and from Framingham and meeting at our space. I love that. That just brings so much joy to my heart to see that. And I always get emotional when people do it.
Oh, good, cry. That's my other
Oh, it'll happen. More no. But yeah, so it's why I do what I do. It's because they're feeling good, and whether it's feeling good physically, mentally, emotionally, they're getting something out of that 45-minute session. So
That's amazing.
that's great.
And it's also interesting too, because for me, I started my business before the pandemic and then had to pivot because of the pandemic. On the other, like the flip side of that, you started your businesses during the pandemic.
Right.
Is there any like pivoting that needs to happen now as we're supposedly coming out of the pandemic? Any different ways that you're operating, any challenges that you're facing that are new now that weren't present then?
I'll just mention quickly that when we started doing our research, we did find other salt caves around the country. There's probably about 600 today, and we were talking to people, how was business before the pandemic? And like, it was good. It was like kind of, they got by. But everyone had said that since the pandemic, they reopened their doors after the pandemic, was the tail end of it was coming to be, that business has soared. So people are they're caring about themselves more, and they are doing things that are making them feel good, and they're seeking out this alternative, natural wellness modality. That being said, though, we opened in October, and then we had that pretty nasty surge in December and January. So we opened our doors, and we were really afraid that no one was going to come. But you may or may not know that salt is a naturally, antifungal, antimicrobial, antibacterial, and then when we're infusing the pharmaceutical grade salts into the space, it's almost like what happens to an ice cube when you run it underwater. It sheds a microscopic skin. So it's a very, I hate to use the word sterile, but it's a very clean environment. We have a sophisticated airflow system too that pulls the air out. So people can come in and feel comfortable that they're in a very, very safe space. We monitor the blankets, we do that. So we're making people feel as comfortable as possible. And we've had plenty of conversations with folks that say, I can't wait to come in, but I'm going to wait a little bit until my comfort level is where it needs to be, and that's totally fine. You're going to be there.
What about you, Shannon? Have you noticed anything changing over time now from the inception of your business?
Yeah, I just want to share that it was very convenient starting in the pandemic because I worked from home, and it really helped me multitask 2 jobs. So it was like one laptop's open, close it, and then like have the other one open, and I'm like, all right, I'll be right back in the car taking calls, and I'm like delivering hot sauce. And so it was great because it allowed me to make that transition. If I had to be in the office every single day, I wouldn't be able to do a lot of those things that I was managing. I was still getting my job done. I was doing it well, but I was taking some of that time where I would maybe overperform and put that into my own personal interests, which was, beneficial for me. I was like, oh, I gotta start thinking about myself a little bit more. But I would say the challenge, as a lot of people know, is supply chain. And for us right now, it's not a huge challenge because we are small batch, small scale. So we're not trying to fulfill a very large number of orders at any given time. But as we approach that and going into the busy season now, which is October through December because of holidays, we need to make sure we have enough inventory with bottles. Shipping costs are like enormous. Like it's sometimes more than the actual product, the actual bottles itself. And they're coming from China or wherever, and everyone else needs bottles too. So it's the cost and the availability and timing of things are a challenge. Even just ordering merchandise, like you just want some t-shirts and hoodies, it'll take a while. So you have to, being such a new business, trying to learn a lot of those things, and on top of it, it's not normal as, given the times that we're in now, trying to just be more kind of prepared and forward thinking about things, and if you run out, what do you do, that type of thing.
Yeah, to keep the business going.
Yeah,
Despite
exactly.
the challenges and the delays of receiving.
Yeah, so it's a benefit being small, but as we're trying to scale our business and get bigger, it's becoming more and more of a challenge. Something that we just have to face.
Well, and another thing too that, I think has been an overlying theme in this whole series is, you also, both of you are moms, different age kids, but we all three of us have different age kids, but it doesn't really matter because that's still another hat that you wear no matter what. So do you notice anything or any specific challenges specific to motherhood and entrepreneurship?
I would say the convenient part is being able to juggle that, but with that, and I think most women, I don't want to speak for all, but like that balance of life of like taking care of yourself. We talk about self-care and people trying to focus more on that. Like I get up and I'm like running around in my pajamas until whatever time I need to head out the door. It could be noon. And it's so easy to just make that lunch, get her out the door, and respond to emails.
And your daughter's 3, correct?
3, yes, I have a 3-year-old daughter, just the one.
So she's really not busy at all. So easy.
I got her signed up in 2 preschools and dance class and swim, and I'm like, Jesus, this is just the beginning. But yeah, and so I think for me, like, getting exercise in is the thing that I, kind of get hard on myself and don't follow through. And everyone says, you have to make it a priority, yourself is a priority. And I'm like, well, I really don't care about myself. But yeah, so I think that, because you are wearing that extra hat and then taking care of the house and making sure that's clean and things are orders and whatever it is that happens in your house, and it's a lot. But the pro in all of it is that you are in control, and it's like a puzzle every day. You move the pieces and try to make it fit where it can fit for the day.
And then Cristina, your kids are a little bit older.
They are.
Right? What are you seeing as far as how you balance everything in your life?
So I have a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old. My 18-year-old just went off to college in Tennessee, and it was great to be able to involve them so much in the startup of the business. They were there, helping out with social media and showing me how to make reels and like all this fun stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I know. I have a little marketing team at home. Exactly. Yeah, they're great. But they love, surprisingly, they love working in the shop. And they're getting to learn firsthand the importance of customer service and how to make a sale and how to treat people and how to handle situations. And they love it. They love it. They tell their friends, like, can my friends work here too? And we're trying to get them all on the team. But it's great. Even my daughter said to me the other night, the one that's at school, and she said, can I work when I come home for Thanksgiving? I said, yes, of course you can work when you come home for Thanksgiving. I'm expecting you to. So it's great to have taken them along for the ride with this, and hopefully that is planting a seed of whether they become an entrepreneur in the future or not. I come from a background of entrepreneurs. My brother's also an entrepreneur. He's a very successful marine business, mostly in South Florida, but here on the South Shore as well. He has a business in Scituate and Weymouth. I think that we both have had that exposure to it, which has led us to where we are. But I'm happy that they're seeing it at this point in their life to determine what they do in the future.
Just to add to your comment, that's how I feel about our business, even though my dog's only 3. Part of the reason why we have our name in the sauce is because we want it to be a family-owned business and people to know it's a family that's making the sauce, and for her to have this experience, shall we ever have more kids, they all have that experience of being around a business and the community that it's involved in it, and that was really important to us. And we symbolize that in our logo with the roots and the seeds, and sowing the seeds, and the branches are representative of the community and people branching out and trying our sauce or just exploring new flavors with their foods, and it being a family and a community-based business.
So staying on the topic of the sauce, can you give us a couple of your favorite recipes using some of your favorite sauces? I mean, I have my favorites that you make, but I'd like to know what yours are and what you're making at home with them.
So I have to admit, I am not the best at cooking. I wish I could be like you and make this amazing food. But I think one of the important things about our sauce is it's supposed to be incorporated in your everyday foods and what you're eating. So not to go out of your way during a busy work week and have to follow a recipe. For me, that's stressful. So it's about incorporating that into whatever foods you're already going to be making that day, or even eating. So you can cook it into the ingredients, or you can just add it on to a sandwich. So my favorite things, if it's going to be an easy meal, like a chili in a crock pot, is take 2 tablespoons of either the red batch, which is just kind of like the original flavor sauce. Add that to make a little bit of a spicy chili. I use the green batch, which is a serrano and a tomatillo-based sauce, and put that into my guacamole, because it's basically everything you put in a guacamole. Most people like to put red pepper chili flakes onto their avocado toast. Instead of that, I just put the Thai chili sauce on top of it, and it gives it a really rich flavor. And then if you go to our website, if you're interested in more recipes, we have some on there. But game day foods, if you guys celebrate, watch football on Sundays, there's a lot of wing recipes and
there might be a restaurant opening on South Shore soon that might have Burke's hot sauce on the menu. Stay tuned.
So you won't have to do any cooking, and you go to this awesome place with amazing hot sauce.
Yeah, no, that's great. And just for another little, for what I do, we focus on farm to table, organic, healthy, scratch-made meals. We do home delivery and catering and private chef services. But so we use Shannon sauce a lot because hot sauce is a really simple, delicious way to infuse a lot of flavor without adding extra calories and fat and salt and things that traditionally are used to enhance flavor, but can have negative side effects for people. This is a great way to just be able to get that pop of flavor without having all those additives as well. So that's just another little plug for that. And then Cristina, it's not just the Scituate salt cave. There's other things that are happening there.
Yes.
What's going on there?
That's
and what
true.
are some of your favorite things happening in the cave, but also ways that we can maybe grab a little bit of inspiration from the cave in our own homes too?
For sure. So lots of stuff going on. People come, I think, for the halo therapy, but then they realize, wow, you do this and you do this. One of the things that we did not have as part of our original business plan, but as we started traveling around to all these caves, we noticed they were doing as well, is ionic foot bath detoxes. Has anyone heard of that? Mm-hmm. So they're wild. It's a crazy way to get there, but you feel pretty amazing afterward. We place your feet in a warm salted bath, we connect you to an ionizer, and it helps to sift out the toxins that are stuck in your joints, muscles, organs, tissue, and they release through the soles of your feet. The water turns different colors based on what you're detoxifying. And again, crazy way to get there, but you feel pretty wonderful afterwards. So that's
is that like an add-on?
That's not
in the salt cave?
So not while salt cave is separate.
Okay.
So you can do the ionic foot bath either before or after your salt cave, or just come in for the foot bath. They've got a lot of people that do that. They've got people that come in for all kinds of reasons for that. I think one of my most favorite things that we do at the cave is yoga inside our cave. It's pretty special and magical. I just actually put a plug for myself, I guess. Just put myself back on the schedule, so I'll be teaching again starting at the end of October on Sunday mornings, 8:45. But we have a wide variety of yoga classes, everything from yin yoga to slow flow, all kinds of things. We offer Reiki, both private Reiki and group Reiki. Those of you that don't know what Reiki is, it's an energy healing that we offer. We have readings that we do, tarot card readings, astrology readings, spiritual guidance readings, for those that are into that. I think what am I missing, Lauren?
I hear a lot of people talk about the meditation piece too.
Yes, yeah.
But that's something that they're really remembering and taking away from their
Absolutely.
experience in the Salt Cave.
Yes.
And wanting to replicate that at home, like on a mini level, if you can't make it into Salt Cave every week.
Exactly.
And I know that you have some really great resources.
We do. So during your 45-minute session inside the cave, we do play a short guided meditation. Anybody can do it. It's 10 minutes long. It just brings you through a body scan. It's really simple. You can do that at home. Right? You can kind of bring yourself through your own body scan. I have been a long-time meditator for 20 plus years, I'd say, maybe longer. I most recently started practicing TM, which is transcendental meditation. It's pretty simple. You just have a mantra that you're given, and you just say the mantra. It's nonsensical. It doesn't really mean anything, but it helps get you into this very calm state. It's 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon. You can do it yourself by coming up with your own mantra that you love. You just say it over and over again in your head, and eventually you just get to a point where your brain is just very free and calm and in a meditative state. So that's one thing that I love. I also just recently started practicing the 5 Tibetan rites, which are 5 very simple to practice exercises that you do every morning. It takes 5 minutes, but it comes from obviously the Tibetan monks that have done this for centuries. And it's 5 simple movements that help your body. You move every single muscle in your body. And there's great books about it. There's plenty of YouTube videos about the 5 Tibetan rites, but it can be really life-changing. So, and then I listen to a ton of like podcasts, and I've done Calm and Headspace and that kind of thing. If you need that extra guidance and need to listen to somebody meditate, but calming your brain in the morning before you reach for your phone is what everybody should be doing.
It's probably the best takeaway piece from the day so far for everyone. Share this with teenagers too.
Yes.
So, okay, as we're sort of transitioning into wrapping up a little bit, what are some of your favorite locally owned, either businesses or products or restaurants, or like, what's your hot list of your favorite local places to go, whether that's for wellness or for food, or just what are your favorite local businesses? It's always good to plug everybody else too.
I might be biased, but Untitled Brewing. They do have our hot sauce, so if you're there, pick up a bottle.
Yeah.
But we just love going there like Friday nights, and it brings away. She just hangs out, and it's a good like easy like after work kind of low key thing. And we like to go to the harbor, like all the restaurants. It's so easy and fun, and like seeing the water, Scituate harbor.
Staying on that Scituate theme too. I mean, I love that people come to the cave and then they stay in Scituate and they go to the shop, and they everywhere on Front Street I think is awesome. Little plug too, and I should probably get it out there that there's no relation whatsoever to Mark and Carrie.
I was wondering about this. Okay.
Yeah. So board 143 I love. Whenever I need like either a quick gift or a cool bottle of wine or a great recommendation for something or some hot sauce, I will go there. So it's owned by Carrie and Mark Curreri, and we have no relation. We're not related at all. So as far as we can see.
It's a great little spot. They really do a nice job curating the shelves with
do.
as many local vendors as possible.
Yeah.
So stuff that you can't usually find unless you're going to a farmer's market, they have every day. So yeah, you're right. That's a great spot to go to find things like hot sauce and all other products that we love to see at the local farmers markets too. So then I also would just ask, because I think I'm curious to hear your take on it, and maybe some of you are as well. What are some of the challenges that you feel like we're facing on the South Shore as business owners right now? If there's anything in particular, I know that we've talked about covered just inflation costs, pandemic ups and downs, things of that nature. Is there anything else that you feel like either, and I shouldn't phrase that in a negative way, maybe there's challenges, or maybe you've noticed some things on the positive side now that are really helping to drive small businesses that maybe wasn't there before?
I would say the positive is the community. I think more than ever, and granted, I've only been in the South Shore for 3 years, and most of that's been a small business owner, but I feel like there's such a sense of community and more small business owners and people just promoting each other and just supporting each other, and that's been very rewarding and just unexpected too. I didn't expect that, so I'm like, this is just great, even just to meet new business owners, existing ones, and kind of share what we have is a great experience. For me personally, the challenge is there's a lot of food business owners, even if it's just baking things or things that you see at the farmer's market, is having a commercial certified kitchen. It's not something that's common, and basically what that means is you can't make your food in your house using your kitchen. You have to have one that is certified by the Board of Health. And there's a lot of people that have great products that they're trying to make, and they just don't have a place to do it, or it's temporary and it's shared. So we've been using a shared space for quite a bit, and now we're looking to build our own. But the challenges to that is timing and space. And if you've got a great product and you're looking to scale that, you really can't do that in that limited space that you have. So if it could be something more supportive for the food businesses within the South Shore, that would really, I think, flourish a lot more businesses to come through and expand.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just a little bit more personal. There's the business is sort of running itself. We've got a great system in place for making a reservation, and we know what the experience is like when you come in, and I've hired people now that are helping me, which is wonderful, but there's a lot of stuff going on, as far as trying to balance requests that we get from people in other states that have visited us that want to open their own salt cave, or people that want to rent the space out and do different things. We definitely have very much a growth mindset, and we're keeping an open mind to different things that we can do. We have no interest in franchising, but might think of a second location at some point down the road. I'm not sure where we are in time if we're going to get to it, but our plan is to really expand on the original idea. Our LLC is actually called Heal House, H standing for health, E for education, A for awareness, and L for love. And each one of those arms carries a different purpose, and that we're trying to put that all together now. So the health is obviously what we're doing inside the cave. The education piece is the classes and things like that we do. Awareness is bringing awareness of salt therapy to the community, and love is really our philanthropic arm and trying to give back to the community. So trying to balance all the stuff that's going on is the challenging part for me.
Yeah, no, I feel that deeply too. It's hard to just compartmentalize and do one thing at a time, for sure. I don't know how we are on time, but
I think we can probably start with some Q&A if you guys are ready. If you have maybe one last teaser question. Otherwise, if anyone in the audience has some questions for these ladies, now's the time. Jill?
Thank you. I have a question for Burke hot sauce. I'm sorry, I forget your first name. Shannon. When you're creating recipes, how much is it that you decided, I like this, we're gonna go forward with it, and then, or what percentage did you decide, geez, I need to get feedback?
You talk about that hot sauce recipe, the bottles of the sauce.
Yes, like how much did you just go forward saying, I love it, this is the recipe, or, oh my gosh, I might love it, but what if nobody else does?
We did a lot of going forward, but before we did do that, we had lots of friends and family feedback before we did that. So the story is we had all the hot peppers and lots of hot sauce making was happening in the Burke house. And we had way too many bottles, but we had quite a few different recipes, and they were pretty hot. So if you think our hot sauce is hot now, it was way hotter before. We tried to tame it down a bit. And they might get a little bit tamer down the line, but there's a reason for it. But the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. So we kind of, if you look at all the different bottles, there's similar ingredients, and then we just tweak a couple things like the pepper, or we add, one bottle has like ginger, the other one has like carrot. So they're all similar ingredients, but we just change that one ingredient so we're not too far off. And there's a lot of science that goes into it, so that's where I give my husband the credit, and math. So it's figuring out the proportions of, and there's software technology for that too, which is great. Probably saves him a lot of time. But yes, so to answer your question, a little bit of both with that. And I think where we get, less feedback is like maybe some of the limited stuff that we do, or I call it research and development, where we make something, we give it to a bunch of people to try, we don't sell it, and then, so for example, we have one coming out in a couple weeks, pumpkin flavor, and we made it last year, but we didn't sell it to anyone, and people loved it, so here we are this year with it.
How many varieties do you have?
We have 6. We've been very limited on the one, so you may think we only have 5, but technically 6. And that was because of sourcing of the type of pepper that we have. And
Which one is it?
It's the mango Scotch bonnet, which is in the queue, and it will be back very soon. So, and we found a way to keep it in rotation. So,
And where can your hot sauce be found?
so it easily can be found on our website. We ship, and then there's a couple local places. Board 143 has been one of them that I mentioned. Untitled Brewing, the Barrel in Hingham, Mayflower Mercantile in Plimpton, DKT in Norwell. There's a couple others. We haven't been proactively in our sales outreach right now to local retail boutiques, because we're in a transition period of building our own kitchen space. So we're looking to be able to scale to support the sales of that. And then we do some farmers markets. We've been doing Hanover, Hingham in the winter, and lots of pop-ups. So if you follow us on social, you'll get a lot of that tidbit stuff of where we're gonna be for the weekend.
And I would say that's true for both Cristina and Shannon's businesses, that definitely follow them on their social media channels, because there's some really cool things that both of you do, talking about what you have coming down the pike, really giving like an insider glimpse. Even if you've never been there, you almost feel like you have, because you do post some really, really neat things on your social media channels too. So definitely following them on social media would be, I think, something that all of us can take little tidbits of our own away from. Both do a really good job.
Question, I actually know the answer to this, but could you tell everyone about, you have a retail front as well, where you're also curating and selling local artisans. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So we should probably have some hot sauce on this. Again, not part of our original business plan. We thought we just would sell a few salt lamps and some salt products, but as we started traveling and visiting all these salt caves, I noticed that some people had some body products and some people had this and that. So I quite literally cultivated a few of my favorite things, and it actually says that right above our retail space. And it's a wide variety of things. We sell some really cool jewelry. We've got some Turkish towels. We've got great body products. There's so many different things, and what it developed and what it became is I wanted it to be a space where you could come and buy a gift for someone else or for yourself. You felt really good about buying it. It had great value. You felt great giving it to yourself or using it at home. It like reminded you of a good memory. More than half of the space is local, so more than half of what we sell is local, either to Massachusetts or hyper-local to the South Shore, which we're really proud of as well. But we just love that we have different things that you can come in and even just buy a gift, and you come back to visit the cave another time.
That's one thing I love too about, just, I guess, going back to my earlier question about what's great about the South Shore or the challenges. The one thing I love about the South Shore is that we do have so many vendors. So like in my business, we're able to support local vendors like Shannon. We use Hail Bone Broth in our chilies. We source Squires mushrooms, when we do our mushroom flatbread. And so there's all the folks that you're seeing at the farmer's market. They are working so hard to cultivate that wholesale arm for themselves. And it's like Shannon mentioned, it's very difficult for especially food purveyors to do that. So what's one of our passions is supporting as many local purveyors and farmers as we can. And I love the fact that for both of you, you know, you supporting local by putting your products there, using local products when you can in your creation, and then you having your store, you know, and also offering the service locally, but you're also supporting, you know, we're all in this together, right? Other locally owned products and merchandise too. So just
Going back to the pandemic thing real quick, I think part of that kind of transpired into supporting locals as well, because when the big chains were shut down and the grocery stores, the shelves were empty, it made you really kind of think like, I can get eggs down the road from my neighbor and all these other food things, and you just feel even better about it, that you're supporting your own community, and I think that stuck around and will continue to stay and grow within the community.
yeah, it does really feel that way for sure, that the community support reached a peak at that point, but I personally feel like it's still, we're maintaining that, where people have found that passion, you know, to focus on and think about supporting local first. Any other questions at all?
It sounds like you guys spent a lot of time planning and putting together what you expect the business to be like, but we're, I don't know, a year later, what's the biggest surprise you both discovered that you did not plan on or did not see coming?
I can say for me, it's the number of repeat guests we have. I thought it would be kind of a one and done, you'll come check it out, maybe you'll come back a couple years later, but we just did in preparation for our 1-year anniversary, we ran a report of all of our customers, and we had over 100 customers that had been there 4 or more times in the past year. And that's amazing, you know, and the fact that they're coming, not only are they coming back, but they're coming back with another group of people, different people. That was a huge surprise to us.
I think it's always nice when you see the repeat customers, and then when people take time out of their day to write you an email and talk about how much they love your product and to keep doing what you're doing. And like, you do not have to do that, and it just means so much. And so I guess you're so busy like being in the weeds running the business that it means a lot when people care about your product and do that. It keeps you going to know that you're on the right path to making something that people enjoy.
Yeah, I think that one other thing to add though was a huge surprise to us was that Chronicle noticed us. You know, and it noticed us very early. We were open for 2 weeks, and we got a call from the producer, and I said to her, "How did you even find out about us?" She said, "You're all the buzz on social media." I said, we are. But we were very grateful for that opportunity. So.
How many salt caves are there?
So there's only one other one like ours in Massachusetts, but there's other ways to get halotherapy. It is, medical treatment that you get in the doctor's office or in a hospital. There are spas that have salt rooms, but we really pride ourselves on the experience that you get when you come to the cave. So it's a little different, but there's other ways to get it too. Caves like ours, there's only about 600 of them around the country.
Great. Well, this has been great, and so when I just met you in person today, but I feel like I've known you, and Shannon, I have known you, and even I've learned so much today that I feel like this was really great and inspiring just to see how, during a challenging time, some really awesome ideas were formed that have now turned into successful local businesses. It's very inspiring.